Ladies and gentlemen, your hosts, Michael Wilkes, Angel Ortiz, Dr. Chad, and Sam La Cavera. Go check out beardedbrowns.com and be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Enjoy the show.
What is up? What's up? You guys like that new intro, huh? Tricked
Man,
you
that
guys
thing
up a little
scared
bit.
me at first, man. The numbers came in. It was like 1, 3. I was like, whoa, what?
Yeah, it's like a
defibrillator. Whoa.
It's like a heartbeat. It's like, dang, yeah. Mike worked on that this vacation. He spent his whole vacation working on that this past week.
No,
I'm just playing.
Good. I like it a lot.
But
It came
Yeah, I
out
do
good.
like it.
Came
No,
out good.
but yeah, it was pretty good. Good job, dude. Good job. That came out beautifully. Even better on the show than on my phone. When I saw it, I was like, that's pretty sweet. But we are live today. Today, we're going to break down the receiver room. That's right. Should be a quick show because the receiving room isn't too special. But who's going to make waves and who we think is just making noise. And it's time for our signature segment, Retweet or Delete, where we're going to react to the boldest Browns takes. After that, we're going to do a new one. It's called Media Playback, where we're going to check the receipts from the national media and try to clap back if we need to. It's all coming up right here on the Bearded Browns podcast show. So again, if you're live right now and you're watching us, just share, comment below, get the algorithm running for us so we can get new people on the show and talk with us. So appreciate the love. Anyways, we'll go right into the show today. We're going to talk about the Browns wideouts, the wide receiver group. Guys, what is your first instinct when you think of Browns wide receiving core?
Two things for me.
Oh, go ahead.
One is like the Browns have this crazy thing with wide receiver where I feel like they have through this era of new Browns, they always seem to have at least one good wide receiver in the room. But man, do they have what seems like an impossible task to try to just draft their own wide receiver and like develop him and run him through like a 2 contracts. Everybody that's good that they have feels like they came out of college and have a great year or two and then something happens, or they're this trade or free agent they pluck that throws in a good year or two and then they're done. And like that's more of the historic view. And the current view is just like, I don't know. This is like the most questionable room I think we might have on the entire team for me.
As of having 13 members of the wide receiver room on the roster right now, realistically, guys, what do you think the number is going to be at the end of the year?
Talking wins?
No. Wide receivers in the actual wide receiver room.
Oh,
I'm going to get 5.
The depth chart? 5?
Yes.
I'd say at least 4. You got to have 4, at least.
At least.
Probably 5.
I
Chad's
think
probably
5.
right. Chad's probably right. It's probably going to be
We've
5.
kept we've kept 6 and before, and I'm not sure we might have even kept more at one time, but we've definitely
you're going to have 3 tight ends. So will they make a decision based upon the tight ends?
Yeah.
Will that limit one receiver? Because they're going to do
last
more
year
3
they
tight
did that
end
weird
sets.
thing where they like kept one tight end on the practice squad and just kept pulling him, but they had more options to like play around with. So
yeah, so I could see 5, but I'll say 4 because I really do think the 3 tight ends going to come into play. I think they're going to do that a lot, and I think that's going to be crucial for whoever's the 5th receiver, and it might be David Bell. David Bell might look good, and because of his injury issues, he might not even unfortunately be on the team. But that would suck because he's one of my favorites. But
you do have a very good point. We got to kind of add tight ends to this because they are technically receivers, with Njoku being number 1. Your Blake Whitehart's going to be probably the 3rd slot tight end, and then
Yeah.
excuse me.
Fannin.
Fannin is going to be number 2. Clearly, Fannin's going to be number 2.
Yeah, I read a couple articles lately about Fannin, and I think they're really going to try to utilize him as a receiver also. So, I mean, that's the early talk, at least right now.
And he
but
can
we'll see how they
He can
work
block
out. Yeah.
really well.
I think honestly, receiver is an easier position to pick up on the playbook because tight ends kind of have to learn
Blocking
lineman responsibilities and blocking schemes and routes and like hot reads and all that stuff. And a receiver can just usually go out and run his route, and that's his responsibility, or blocking one person right in front of him on a running play. So that is a little easier to get to.
They did say Fannin, he's picking up everything they're putting down. They put him in all different types of spots all over the field, and he's picking it up quick. So, like we talk plug and play. I definitely think he's going to be shining. He's going to be one of those guys that you
just
get
a
that plug and
surprise
play
for a late
option
tight
with.
end, right? That's a surprise for a late tight end, except for he's got the skill set, Sam, to do probably that.
Yeah, and like I said, because like he seems like the kind of guy where it doesn't have to be lined up where a tight end's at. You could probably, if you wanted to, depending on once the defense is committed, unless they call a timeout, you could kick him out to the wide out spot. I think he can excel out there too. So I can't wait to see the kid play and see what he's actually capable of.
Mm-hmm.
That, and you could have Judkins out there as a wide receiver as well, because that dude's got some hands.
Yeah,
and Samson too. Samson could catch.
Probably even more likely.
Yeah.
But like I don't know. We've had pass catching running backs in the past, and they didn't line up outside that
often at all.
Even
yeah.
we had I can't think of his name, but it'll come to me later. We had one guy who played receiver and running back in college, and I thought, oh, they probably will throw him out as receiver for a while, and they never really did.
That?
So we'll see under this offense. We just
Shankovic,
know
or not. What's
it wasn't. I wanted to say Dearness Johnson, but it wasn't him. It was
wasn't Janovich?
Duke Johnson.
different Johnson. Duke Johnson. No,
Duke
Oh,
Johnson.
it was Duke Johnson.
Madden.
That's
It was
right.
it Fadden McFadden? No, I'll have to think about it. But my point was even in that scenario, like the guy worked a bunch with the receivers. He just didn't end up in a receiver position a lot. He still came out of the backfield quite a bit. And with
Felton.
if you played
It
12
was
personnel.
Felton.
Felton, yeah.
Yep. James
It's
Frank.
Felton.
There you go. Bing, bing. James Frank.
Nice
winner.
job, James.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was Felton, and he played both receiver and I think it was UCLA. Maybe he played receiver and running back, and he was poised to be that guy that's like, oh, I bet they throw him out in the slot. And we didn't have a crazy receiving core at that time, and it still didn't happen. But like I said, it comes down to like, I think the one thing about 12 personnel, which will likely be a big personnel for us again, like it was in 2020, 2021, and 2022, before we basically switched full time to that one quarterback that we like to not talk
No
about.
longer speak of.
It limits us to doing a little more 2 receiver personnel, which will allow us to have maybe only 5 on the roster. 4 would be tough for me because one guy gets hurt, and then on 3 receiver sets, your whole team, that's everybody. But they can stash some practice squad guys, and there's some other ability. I guess one thing though is with a lot of 12 personnel, you're playing 2 receivers more often than, and what that means is you got to really have like 3 guys that you can rotate in those 2 receiver sets that can really get it done. My question is, do we have them? Because there's so many question marks, whether it's a guy that was hurt last year or a guy that had his worst year of his career last year, or I think we all believe in Jerry Jeudy. We see why they brought him in. He's at least, some people will argue whether he's a number 1 receiver or not. Last year, I say he was, and I don't think that's very debatable. And like, I don't have any reasons with the chaos we had last year to think that was like a fake thing for him. Like, I think he showed that with all these different quarterbacks, with bad offensive system, with bad blocking, he could do it. He was exactly what the Browns traded for, where they were like, he's not who we thought he should be in Denver. We think in our offense he can be more, and he was. My question is, everybody after him has to be able to do something, and at least 2 guys have to be able to do something real, because if it's just Jeudy, they're just going to shift coverage over there. And I don't think he's that guy. I don't think he's like so good that if they start focusing on him, and I'm sure like running backs will be an issue in coverage, and so will tight ends. But like the cornerbacks and safeties are going to be focused on the receivers, and if no one but Judy can do anything, I'm worried. Who do you guys think are the guys who can actually be something that can take the little bit of the pressure off Judy?
You would hope it would be Tillman, right? You would hope that because he's shown last year in those 3-4 games that he can be a good number 2. But I've been reading and hearing good things about my boy Mike's guy, Thrash, being in the slot. And they're saying they're testing him in the slot because of his shiftiness, and he's gotten better with the route running and with his hands. So I would say yes, they need someone else to step up, and I would hope it's Tillman because I do like Tillman a lot, and he has the physical tools. He has the look. Let's just hope that he stays healthy.
I'm hoping. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Harry Clark says, has there been any talk about possibly bringing Cooper back?
No, and there shouldn't be.
And he was a good target for Flacco, but
He should be.
we got to think realistically.
That's true, but they're not going to do anything specifically for Flacco.
Starting
Flacco is not their goal. Like, and even if they did, even if somehow he falls in the starting position, which a lot of us are debate.
Yeah.
Even if they're not going to make moves for him because they haven't done the quarterback competition. They have no idea which guy is the guy. So
James Frank says, right, can Judy take leadership role
has
within the wide receiver room? And he will, yes.
And he has 100%. Been. He's been showing. They show video of him doing
Sorry,
routes with
Sam.
guys.
No, it's okay. I was going to say, I'm looking at these receivers, and let's just say they're going to go with 5. We're going to keep 5 on our roster starting the season. I'm kind of looking at the 5 that I got, and one that I'm hoping it makes the team is Larvadine. I watched him. I watched a lot of his highlights. I definitely think he could be a excellent slot type. Smaller.
Can I give you a quick timeout, Sam? Who are your 5 guys?
Yeah. I'm looking at it. I'm gonna go. Obviously, Judy.
Of course.
We're going Thrash. We're going Tillman. I want to go Larvadine. And my 5 I'm struggling on because I just don't know what's the state of Bell. What's the
Michael Woods?
What's the state of? I mean, Floria. I mean, some of these guys might be a
I would like that.
So, but looking right now for sure. I mean, we definitely know we're going to have Judy. I'm thinking Deontay Johnson's going to be in there.
For me, it feels like Thrash, 3 are a lock for sure.
Tillman. Right.
3 are. I think Thrash.
So, but I'm thinking like Larvadine. I liked Larvadine when they said that they were bringing him on. So I'm kind of like that's my little small hope guy that might get some look. So we'll see how that goes when they decide how many they're going to have and who them guys are going to be. So.
Sorry, Google has spoken. Larvadine.
I mean, it is it's a wide open shot for anybody who can show some of the camp. For me, like Thrash is too young for them to give up on, and we know they will quit on their draft picks if they don't show anything. But it's like from what you've heard in camp, like it sounds like he's doing a lot of things right. So the thought of him getting cut after only his rookie season seems ridiculous. Judy is definitely their guy, and then Tillman, in the small window you saw of him, he looked great. And from the way the coaches talk about him, they just have such high hopes for him. Those 3, I think, are a lock. Deontay Johnson, I think, should be a lock, but like he definitely, his resume is a lock, but he has to prove it because of last year was such a mess. And that leaves like, however you pronounce that guy's name. What is it, Mike?
Larvadine.
Larvadine.
Okay. Him,
it's D-A-I-N.
Florio.
I don't know. I was watching his highlight reel. That's not how they said it, but go ahead.
Sorry, I'm trying to be Google right now. I apologize.
let's not get too caught up on pronunciation. We'll definitely learn, and let's just keep going with the receivers. So we have those ones, and then what do we have behind them? We have Woods fighting for a spot, Larvadine fighting for a spot, Florio fighting for a spot, and David Bell fighting for a spot. And there's some other guys on the roster, but I don't think any of them have a giant chance, except for Who is it we just brought in to play special teams? DeAndre Carter.
Yes.
I don't think he's a lock to make the roster, but they have every intention of him being on this roster for special teams, which takes up a wide receiver spot. That's a lot of guys that haven't shown much that are really going to be battling. Like Bell has had his injury concerns and had a really slow start to his career. Like Floria and Larvadane are both guys that are long shots to make the team, but had really good rookie and early camp stuff. And then Michael Woods, between injuries, when he's shown up, he's shown some flashes, but like so inconsistent and injury history. Once you get past those three locks, and then Deontay Johnson, if he actually pulls his head together, you're probably looking at one spot and a whole pile of people, none of which like have any real claim to it. That's why your guy like Larvadane or Floria, if they can, they're more likely to be practice squad guys, and you'd think you'd want a couple receivers on the practice squad, especially for this team. But like that's wide open. There's no way they're like, this guy can't make it. We've got to get a spot for Bell. Like that's not going to happen. Like that's going to be an actual spot people will be grinding to get for that last spot. And I do believe it'll be 5. I don't think it'll be 6, but I do think it will be 5, and that's going to be interesting to find out who falls into that. It's been a long time since it's been this open, and we haven't known what receivers will be on the team, especially because they didn't draft one.
Right.
I do think Luke Floria has a big shot, but what happened to taller receivers? Did you guys see that gradually just bombing? This dude's 5'8". Like what happened to 6'3" and up? Wide receivers, guys that can jump.
It's about speed. It's because the defense can't put their hands on them as much. So like the size advantage, if you're shifty enough to get free, like you don't have a guy that can like push you around at the line. I think that's probably part of it. And the other thing is just like quarterbacks, you have one or two guys who come out that are small and really do something, and the entire NFL kind of copies that as like, oh, if Tank Dell can do it, why not draft this like 5'9" guy or the guys that even came before Tank Dell? It's the same thing we talked about with quarterback. There was like one short quarterback every like 10 years in football or more. And then all of a sudden you get like Russell Wilson and Drew Brees, and you get some superstars and Super Bowl winners that are shorter. And all of a sudden it's okay to draft somebody who's not, 6'3".
So I'll tell you, for example, I'm 6'6" and about 300 pounds. I can run a whole whopping 7 miles an hour. I'll give you that.
That's fast, bro.
Top speed.
Speed.
When I often think of the receivers, I also think of, unfortunately, the backup quarterbacks and the connections that they've been making. And from what I've been hearing at camp, someone that you guys have not brought up who's above 6 foot is Caden Davis. I'm hearing good things about Caden Davis. I'm hearing him and Shador have a good connection.
That's what I was just going to say.
He's
I've
6'1".
seen him catch like 3 Shador touchdown passes randomly.
And I know that's like that's a conspiracy theory talk. Like, oh, that's you
especially
going too deep.
You.
But no, seriously, I heard and also too, what we have to think about is you have to think of, when we think of the number 5th receiver, we have to think of somebody who's going to be not just versatile enough to play outside and inside, because I think they're going to want flexibility, someone in the slot and outside. I think Judy does play inside, but I think they want to play him outside more than inside. So when I think of the 5th receiver, because I agree with Chad, I think Deontay Johnson's going to come in. I think he's going to be playing maybe more mainly slot. I would not be surprised if Luke Florio or Caden Davis makes the roster number 5, because I think they want the young, shifty guys. And I agree with you, Mike. Luke, I mean, a lot of these people are 6 foot, like 5'8", 6'1". Yeah. I think Tillman's the tallest at 6'3".
Really, one thing they have going for them, though, is they have mostly good-sized receivers. So I think it's not out of the realm to have one
short guy, 5'8".
Yeah, if they already had like 2 smaller guys, you'd say, okay, they gotta even out and get bigger red zone type targets. But they've got mostly decent-sized guys. Jerry Judy's a good height. Tillman's huge. Jamari Thrash falls into a pretty good height. Deontay Johnson's decent.
The smaller guys would be good for getting in front of linebackers and making a quick catch. I agree with that. That's fine. Did you see Harry's comment, Angel? I'm going to bring it back up.
No, Angel runs faster than Kenny Pickett's Kenny Pickett's condo for dinner. Yes, I do. Kenny Pickett. If he invited me to dinner, I would run fast there.
Jen says coming in hot with the
Hey,
Pickett tonight.
I mean, I'm just saying there's a wave coming, and I've
Little
sent everyone
baby
an
cheeseburgers
article.
for everybody.
I sent everybody an article, and I encourage people to read the article that I sent you. But we'll leave it at that because we have a show to go. And Kenny Pickett's on the
real
list.
quick. I'm waiting on
I read
something
that,
from
Angel.
James.
I want to let you know it didn't go unread. I read that. I put a little likey thing on it. Ding. Put a little thing on it.
I'm actually waiting
did
on
read
something for James for the show for Angel, and you should see that soon.
That's sweet. But yeah, the fifth receiver is going to be an interesting one because I do think they have a lot of versatility, and when it comes to that, and it's pretty deep. After the top four, it is pretty deep. After you like the fifth receiver is a developmental guy. You hope he plays. He's going to obviously play special teams, so he's going to probably be a gunner or something.
Yeah.
Like
I said, he might be Carter. It might be the guy who's going to be the returner. But,
well, we got to do better. Oh, go ahead, Chad. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but he's a good returner. He's had a history of returner. If one of the guys you guys have already named shows something in camp and in the preseason games as a returner, that's
helps.
where you all of a sudden have a little bit
and
of
Carter is 32, so that does kind of
exactly.
go against him. So if they can get Luke Florio and or Kid Davis, who's 26 or 25, that
not
helps
that I'm
them.
stuck on history, but every time they bring in an older veteran receiver to be their returner, like the last 4 years in a row, the guy's never made it into the start of the season. Something has happened, and he's ended up hurt or out. And I don't believe this position is going to be one in camp. I do think it's impactful when you say, like, you know, Laverdine made some plays in rookie camp that were great, and Floria, and when Angel says, like, Davis caught some passes from Shador, because that stuff shows up on film and the coaches take notice. And for like the last spot on a depth chart, if you're noticed a lot, the coaches are going to be like, well, he's in my head. I keep seeing him. He keeps making plays in camp. But I really think whoever makes the last play in this team, the last roster spot in this team, is going to be one in preseason. I just don't believe they're going to watch practice because of the craziness with the quarterback, the reps, all that. I think they're going to have to say, we need to see somebody that gets out there on the field against the defense and then flashes some plays, sort of the way we saw Jamari last year. They played him a lot against other guys like Bell and Woods and others in the preseason, and he was out there doing something, and I think that helped.
Raul says, my grandson played with Luke Floria at Kent State.
Can you?
Cool. Really cool.
I think it's fun he's from Kent State, by the way. I think it's fun that he's so small. He's a good story. There's going to be a couple fun camp guys to root for. And I've said this before. If all they do is make the practice squad, that's still really huge for these guys. And I would love to have them around as like developmental guys. I see 3 people in the comments have already brought up Josh Gordon.
Yes.
Wishful thinking, right?
I'm trying to remember what season it was, and I remember the announcer going, because we had that particular season that I can't remember the year of. The announcer, the thing was, we had like one guy 6 foot, and everybody else it was crazy because they were calling us the Smurfs. It was the Smurfs receiving core we had. It was quite a few years back.
Was with what's his name? I remember that
it started sticking because a commentator on one of the live games said, well, part of their problem is they got all the Smurfs out here, and it kind of stuck. And it was our receiving core because everybody was short, 5'11s, 5'8s, and then you might have had a couple guys 6 footer plus, but
that's the year where Andrew Hawkins was the receiver here, because
and who's the guy that was across from me? It was Hawkins and another guy with an H.
That just always sticks out. So no matter what's going on, I think we got a better core of guys here now than when we had starting that season. So we'll see how it turns out here. I just don't want to be called Smurfs again. I'm over that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think we have decent size. Like Tillman's 6'3", Jamari Thrash is 6 foot, Michael
6 foot,
6'1", Deontay Johnson's 5'10". He would be the shorter of the group. Jerry Judy's 6'1", and then Caden Davis is 6'1", and so is David Bell. The other guys are who you're looking at 5'10" and lower. So
Angel, look at Jen's comment.
Can't post comments to some destination. Okay. Can't see that.
Wait, what? I had it up there.
Angel
It says Angel, will you be okay if Pickett ends up on a practice squad?
He won't be on the practice squad because the team will pick him up.
he won't be on the practice squad, Jen.
Yeah, because the team will pick him up as a backup. I'm trying to see who.
No, I would agree. He's not.
Miles
I think you
Austin.
have a better chance of sliding. I think you have a better chance of sliding Flacco onto the practice squad. Although I wouldn't risk any of the 4 quarterbacks guaranteeing they're gonna go. My question is, I don't think the veterans like Flacco level veteran. He's off his deal. He doesn't go through waivers. If they cut him, he's just free.
Yeah,
make that kind of a deal where it's like, we're going to cut you, but don't sign with anybody. We want you on our practice squad because we're going to utilize you later. He's the one guy we can kind of do that.
Good point.
And James said New Orleans would have made Pickett their starter as well if they could have got him.
and there's still an opportunity for that to happen if they decide, hey, we want to trade for Kenny. I mean, Kenny would go there.
Pick.
Yeah, and it makes sense for them because Kellen Moore coached him as the OC at Philadelphia. There's a connection there.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
They just drafted who? Tyler Shuck.
Yeah. So
and he could be ready to start the season, but like he hasn't played that much actual football. It wouldn't be shocking if they were like, we drafted him in the second round. We like him in the long term. We're not planning on starting him day one because he's our long-term option. And so that wouldn't be a shocker if they wanted to like take a breath and have somebody like, especially Pickett, Flacco, somebody who takes shots down the field. Kellen Moore will take some shots. So I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to take somebody to put in front of him. So that'll be on the radar. That quarterback thing will be on the radar the whole camp.
For sure. Yeah, we'll see how that plays out.
Anybody want to add for the wide receivers before Chad? What are you drinking?
Banana water.
It's a California thing. You guys wouldn't understand.
Like coconut water, but with bananas instead.
Interesting. Good hydration.
Yeah. Electrolytes, antioxidants.
No, nothing.
Electrolytes are important. Sorry, Angel.
No, just trying to think. Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're not as deep, and when you start to lay out the receiver group, you realize that maybe they do have some potential there. You're just worried about health and if it's going to be like, is Judy going to produce what he produced last year? And there's one thing that he just put that over Chad's face,
right over Chad's face. I didn't mean to do that.
One thing that it isn't talked about is that Judy did have a drop issue last year. He dropped, I think, 10%. I think I posted that drops thing. Oh yeah,
as a Cleveland Brown.
Yeah, it was a 9% drop. He had 10 drops. So it was 9% drop percentage. So
yeah, and early in our season, everybody had dropped.
Everybody
dropped. I don't know why that was, but he had a ton. I think Tillman had a few.
Don't forget about Cooper had 10.
Cooper had like 16 or something last season total, but a 10 with us in only like 6 games or whatever.
Yeah, he played 6 games. Yeah, 10 drops.
Crazy, dropping 2 a game almost.
Yeah. So that's something to watch. But I mean, he did lead the team obviously in reception touchdowns. But hopefully he can duplicate that. Again, we have tight ends, and that's how. Like when I think of the receivers, I always have to remember. It's not going to be on them. It's going to be on the tight ends too, and the running backs that we have. Like I'm so used to the last 2 years.
Receivers a lot, then all of a sudden having only 3 that you can count on is not
as bad.
Killer because you can rotate them. And I'm not the optimist. There's probably Browns fans out there who are like, I know Mike loves Thrash. There's tons of Browns fans out here who are like a big fan of Thrash. If they fully believe he's going to come around, you feel a little better about the room. For those who are like, I'm not worried about Tillman's health, but I still think like I'm not ready to count on somebody who's done so little, even though you saw the potential, because maybe he can't repeat and the quarterback situation is a little sketchy. But if those 2 work out and then you have Judy Johnson bounces back, which he almost has to save his career. He's, I think, just turned 28. So it's not like he's ready to retire. So if you get the bounce back and you get the skill level out of them, and then Tillman and Thrash even like turn into somewhat what we're hoping for them, well, then you actually feel pretty good, and your fifth person is the only real question. But that actually has to happen. So,
It might dictate a lot of that. Real quick is how aggressive this running game is going to be this year, and what they're producing. Because if we can get that going, how we had it going on a while back, where we seem to be more of a threat on the ground, that's going to definitely open up for these receivers, even if they're not a top 5-tier guy. It'll open up stuff for them guys. If we got a running game that defenses are all like, oh man, these guys are coming to town this week, and they can bust some holes, and they're a pounding team, and then you run your play action and stuff. So I'm hoping a lot of this is going to be on our running game. So what's
Hold on
up,
a
Angel?
second. I don't understand the Browns' logic here. Okay, you
I already
say
said
Kenny.
this.
You said I know, but I just saw the comment. I thought you were just bringing it up. You're telling me that Kenny Pickett's good enough to start for an NFL team like New Orleans, but he's not good enough to start for the team that he's currently on. And by the way, he's learning the system currently. So he's good enough to just leave a team and start a new system right away, but he's not good enough to learn and start here. See, this is the stuff. I love you, James. I know you're number one fan. That's the stuff for me when I see that stuff. Like, doesn't make sense to me. Like, if you're going to make an argument, say, "Oh, he's good to start there, but not here," because why? Because
that's
why?
the stuff we've heard. Fans have always said that though, because think about the amount of times we're like, "Oh, we hate Greg Newsome. He's not good. Get him out of here. Like, trade him. He stinks." This team would love him, and you're like, "Well, if you think
exactly.
like, oh, the Patriots would trade for him in a second, they would, and he'd be a starter there." And you're like, "Well, if you think he'd be a starter there, why you want to get rid of him so bad?" You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's always, I see that all the time with
It's
players.
mind-boggling. It's like, wait, you're disproving your point by saying he'll be good there, but not good here.
Some people just
Raul
don't want
took
him
a
here, and
shot.
I do get that. People just
Yeah,
do
there's a
not
shot.
take it.
That is a shot. It's funny.
Raul says he has more Super Bowl rings than Garrett.
Touche.
Oh,
Yeah, he does.
Touche, Raul.
Okay.
With that
let's
being
move
said,
along.
let's
We're going to move
move
along
on,
after
yes.
that comment. Raul,
Real
We're
quick
gonna-
wrap up. Real quick wrap up. I'm curious with you guys. So we've been through every offensive group. Whether we did the line, we did tight ends, we did running backs, we did receivers, we did quarterbacks. The half the offseason. Let's take quarterback out of it because that's a whole nother ball game.
yeah.
What do you guys feel like what is the position group you're most confident in going into the season and least confident in? It doesn't mean they'll be the worst. You just could have questions from each of you in the offensive side out of those line,
the
tight
offensive
ends,
side,
wide receivers, running backs.
I'll go first. I'm going to go with the offensive line. I think the offensive line is going to be something amazing this year. Obviously, if they can stay healthy, health is an issue with this line. I had a long talk with Barry Shuck of Dogs by Nature this week.
Good old
We had
Barry.
a show last Friday, actually, and I think this line has huge, ample opportunity to return to what it once was. Can that happen with Bloomgren? It's a huge possibility. Can it not happen? Yes, it couldn't. But my biggest thing is the offensive line. We all know this. It's been this way since last year. And you said the biggest doubt?
Yeah, doubt, question mark, or the worst group, basically.
Probably wide receivers.
Okay. Similar. I think I shocking because it's just Jerome Ford and two rookies, but I am feeling really confident about the running backs because I think they're set up in a system that fits them. They've got different skill sets. And like, even though they're young running backs tend to do pretty well out of the gate. And I would say too, receivers are my biggest question mark. Questions at tight end, but at least we know what David Njoku is, and we have hopes for Harold Fannin. And the line, I think, is going to take a jump. I do think there is questions about whether they'll be anywhere near when they were at their prime, but I think they're steady. I feel pretty hot about the running backs.
I'm with you, Chad, with the running backs, which is kind of piggybacking off of what Mike said, because you're going to have a better running game because that offensive line is going to be put together where they were at.
Yeah,
they're going to be running. They're going to go back to Kevin's, running some more of Kevin's type offense and getting them guys out there and then big blocks. So that's going to open up our receiving core, it to me does seem like that might be the that is kind of like the weak part of this offense right now. But I'm as concerned as I am for that. I'm concerned about this kicker, because we can't have him doing what he was doing last year. Because if it comes down to a kicking game and we lose by 3 points and them guys poured their hearts out and he misses a 25-yard field goal, then, I mean, we need somebody that can kick the ball and not be, I mean, that's a make or break guy right there. You could play your best game all day and it comes down. He could miss a freaking extra point now. Now you're missing extra points, bro. Okay. And he was having his struggles last year. We can't have that again this year if we're trying to be this better team, because everybody else is going to be good. And now you still got a guy that can't kick a 30-yard field goal. I mean, that's.
Now I wish you went last, Sam, because that's the perfect transition to the next spot. But Angel still has to give his. So Angel, wrap it up. And then,
I was like, you just
sorry,
cleared half
guys.
the show.
I was just.
No,
sorry.
I would.
No,
I
no,
would.
no,
I
it would have
would.
been perfect.
I would go a different angle with it, and I would say tight end, because though we are very high on Fannin, the consistency of David Njoku's health concerns me. And once he falls out, then you have Fannin and Blakehart, right? Blakehart.
No, Blake Whiteheart.
Blake Whiteheart. Blakehart. Yeah, Whiteheart. Right, whatever his name is. Poor guy. Then you have a rookie, and then you have a guy who hasn't shown consistency yet because he hasn't had an opportunity to. And then you're pulling up a guy from the USCFL as your third tight end, because you'll be running a lot more third tight end sets. So that just to be different, because I agree, guys, entirely about the receivers. But I do feel good about the running backs, and I watched the running backs be the most disappointing because we all think they're going to be so great. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I think there's questions at every position, so it's fair to have picked any one of them. But there's also, like, I think it's the receiving core is the one group out of everybody that I think looks worse than last year. And I guess you could say the same with tight end, because even though Njoku's here and we like Fannin, like, at least David Akins was a known commodity and we knew he could play good tight end. We don't have that after Njoku anymore. We just have the hope that Fannin can do it, and probably more as a receiver than a all-around tight end. So yeah, fair.
One more really quick thing. Angel texted me earlier and said, hey, for our next segment, you could delete that one thing because the Miami Dolphins found a tight end.
Yeah.
So
there was rumors of David being on the trading block because Miami might have been interested in him. And it would be a conversation to have if I was Andrew Berry. And I was kind of hoping that rumor would linger more, because I think a lot of people they love David, but I do think that the value of trading him for a draft pick, I would have argued it, because I think there's, for a third, fourth, or fifth, third or fourth, I might have done it, because I'm concerned about David. I looked into it and I'm like, man,
you should be.
He's hurt a lot. 2 to 3 games a year. 2 to 3 games. He's talented, but 2 to 3 games a year he's hurt. And you said it, and I didn't realize it till you said it last week, Chad. Like he basically, you said, like, he hasn't lived up to what his potential is yet. He had one good season.
Lived up to his contract that they gave him. They gave him that contract thinking, okay, he's been in the league 3 years. Let's extend him, because coming up to in his 4th year, because we see the trajectory, and it took another 2 years for that to even hit, and then he fell off again the next year. I think it's totally fair to have your questions on him, and that's why I said it around back in draft season. With this draft class for tight ends, you could not come out of this draft without an additional tight end. And thankfully, they got one of the last kind of premier targets in the 3rd round, because I think that was clutch.
It would be interesting to see how, if they're totally out of it and a team calls for a weapon, and if David is one of those weapons that gets traded, because his contract is up, and I think they're going to be looking to get younger, because he's almost 30. And they don't want to extend him anymore. I don't think they will extend.
This draft class was for tight ends. A lot of guys, just like running back, why you such a low market for Chubb is a lot of guys who had that need were able to fill that need with a draft pick in the first 3 rounds, which is where you get, especially in the top 75, that's where you get prime talent. And a lot of people were able to hit those spots. But the other thing, but what Sam had said earlier, he spun it right back to us with one of the topics. He was nervous about the kicker. I thought it was very quiet and almost like underreported that part of the cutting of Obo Okoronkwo in a move that a lot of people reported, well, it was a salary saving move. They have good depth at that position. They have younger guys at the position, and he was due like $9 million, all unguaranteed, and they get that all back on the cap now between the next 2 years because they pushed him out. But what was kind of also underreported was right after they made that move to fill that extra draft roster spot, they brought in Smythe, whatever his name is, from last year.
It's,
Smith.
Is it
Smite?
Smite? Yeah, it's Smite. Yeah, it's Smite,
no,
right?
it's not.
Smite and
Nope.
It's Schmidt. It's
Andre.
Schmidt.
Yeah,
It's
you're
still
right.
Schmidt.
You're
Schmidt.
You're Schmidt. Yeah, Schmidt. You're right.
Sorry, Google
but-
appeared again.
Yeah. But
Andre Smith.
I just think it's a little underreported that, like, and I don't know if this should worry anybody about how, Dustin Hopkins looked in camp, but the fact that they cleared a roster spot and immediately brought in another leg gave me pause. Like, maybe they're just like, we need another camp leg. We can't have our one kicker do everything. But on the other hand, we didn't really have a backup plan at that spot, and now they do. And I do think that's interesting, worth bringing up, because I think it went a little under the radar that they brought in a kicker.
I think it was Sam and I that were
So
talking
maybe a
on the phone earlier.
kicker competition. Maybe a kicker competition. Training
Yeah,
camp.
Maybe.
after you and I were
Kicking
talking earlier,
competition,
Sam, we
maybe.
said, hey, this is going to be
Yeah.
something for Dustin Hopkins to look forward to. Oh, now I have competition. Boom. Was
Yeah.
that you and I, Sam, that were
Yep,
talking
no,
earlier?
Yeah. Yep. Maybe he'll feel that way. Like, what's this guy doing here? Well, there's somebody else here to kick footballs too. Which you two are going to be better this year. So I don't know. Something
Which
to
we're still going
pay
to do. We're going
attention
to figure
to,
out which
like-
four of us are going to be better at kicking field goals soon.
I've been stretching, dude. I've been
I
stretching.
haven't. It's Chad. You have to
kick
join
it over
us.
a
You gotta
mountain.
take
It's gone.
Chad. You have to take you and your fiance to a field and see what farthest field goal you can kick, and send us the videos.
He's
I can
like,
try.
I got to see
try.
you got to make a whole video, Chad. You got to make a whole video. You got to roll up to a certain field with your e-bike, leather jacket on. You got to take it, throw it over the side, start walking out to the field to get your kick ready, man. We all got to do one. Let's get it. Let's do it.
Throw
Let's
it
do
out
it.
on the field.
Yes.
like the Fonz.
The fuck?
Got the sunglasses on. I can see it all.
And then
day,
I'll make
dude.
sure
All
I'll make sure
day.
Katie takes
All
the
day.
video of the ambulance coming to get me after I dislocate
Pull
my
it.
hip or whatever.
Yeah.
And you gotta be completely inebriated when you do it.
Yeah, yesterday level,
That's
birthday,
funny,
birthday,
man.
birthday bike ride level.
Oh, gents, my wife said stretching thumbs on PS5 don't count.
Oh yeah, Chad.
Whatever,
Yeah,
man.
Sam's a construction
Go
worker
do some dish.
on
Go do some
PS5
dishes.
now.
I'm hungry. Cook me a sandwich. Make me a sandwich.
Oh, where's that comment, dude? I gotta pull that up. Stretching thumbs on PS5
That's
don't
funny.
count. Ha 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 ha. Sorry,
Yeah.
I was lacking
Well,
on the
see, I
comments there
got-
for a minute.
You're good.
I just had a surgically repaired thumb, so that's my rehab. This November, I go
Yeah, I
into
wonder-
this thumb.
I
So.
wonder how that went so bad. But what do we got next? Retweet or delete?
Yeah, retweet or deletes next.
Y'all ready for this?
Let's get it.
Oh, crap! Now I gotta go back.
Y'all
into
ready
the
for this?
media.
Dun, 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 dun,
There it
dun,
is.
dun,
Ready?
dun, dun.
Retweet or delete.
All right, retweet or delete, guys. This is one of my favorite segment. I don't know about you guys, but retweet or delete. It's hard. I think we started this segment early because it's very hard to find Brown stuff currently on X. But here we are. First one: retweet or delete. Deshaun Watson taking Shedeur Sanders under his wing as a mentor to the Browns quarterback. You guys like this idea?
I'll tell
No.
you right now. Don't even retweet it. Don't
Don't even
delete
bring
it.
it
It shouldn't
up.
have never been posted. You could, yeah, it could. Don't even bring it up. Let it go. Nobody cares about Deshaun Watson right now. We don't want you mentoring our young quarterback as well. If you are going to do this, maybe you finally have done something for the team. Don't tell this dude, hey man, collect millions and just get injured. It's cool. Delete.
Yeah, I agree. Sam?
It's a delete for me. I mean, what's he going to show the guy? Which massage powers to go to that will help you finish? I mean, delete. It's out of here. Done. I don't want that guy around nobody. I don't care how good he was back in the day. And sure, he's probably got some quarterback knowledge, but he has done nothing here, and he does not need to be mentoring anybody coming up in this organization because he hasn't done shit. So delete.
I feel the same way, but with the opposite response, because I agree with all the stuff Sam just said. I think it's worth a retweet because I think it's significant. If most of us all feel like this guy hasn't done anything for us, he's been anything but an ideal citizen the last couple of years. If it's true that he's like mentoring him stuff, I think that's a retweet because I think that's something people should be aware of. It's like, I don't know. I think we'd all feel better if just about any other quarterback in the NFL were connected with Shedeur Sanders and mentoring him. So I think it's worth a retweet because I hate everything about that the same way Sam does. So I think it's like, get it out there. I think it's significant for people to like dive in to the fact that we have a guy that no one in this city wants anywhere near the quarterback room, mentoring probably the most volatile member of that quarterback room.
It's like Pookie teaching Buckwheat how to smoke crack.
I would, yeah. All right. So yeah. What I'll say is this. I think Deshaun Watson has done a great job of keeping himself in front of people's eyes and putting stories like this out, because who's really mentoring, I think, is a good mentor for Shedeur Sanders is where he was today with RG3 at his camp, teaching kids how to be a quarterback. And that's where that's where Shedeur Sanders needs to stay and be. If he's, I don't mean, I believe in redemption. I believe in forgiveness. But if you're being taught by Deshaun Watson, who's been making nothing but excuses for his lack of time here, I don't want my quarterback to develop that culture in his mind. So I would definitely delete this for sure.
That's a delete.
You can't delete Shedeur getting mentored by Deshaun. You can just delete the story that it's out.
No, I want to delete the whole thing.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I don't want to. I don't think I could delete that mentorship. I think that's why I would retweet that it's happening to like make everyone aware. Like,
be careful
what's going on.
Yeah.
In my mind, I want to see Flacco going, Shedeur, come here, stay with me. Don't pay no attention to that guy.
And I'm sure
Flacco has openly said, I don't want to be an active mentor, which is why the Browns should have thought, which is why the Browns, I think, wouldn't have been so big on bringing him in if they knew they were bringing in two rookies. And I'm not saying they can't watch him and learn from him, but he's not going to take a quarterback under his wing. Right now, Deshaun has nothing better to do. The good news for everybody that doesn't want that to happen is, the good news is he did know what he was doing young in his career when he first got into the NFL because he was very successful. But the bad news, or the other good news, is if you don't like it, he's not even going to be allowed in the meeting rooms once they put him on IR, which I think we all think will happen. And so, like, that'll be a different story. But it makes me nervous. I don't love it.
Yeah. Let's move along. Angel?
Next one. Steelers. Are they going all in? Jalen Ramsey joins the stout Steelers defense, which I think that's weird to say because I think their pass defense was bottom of the league last year. As the AFC North supporting show, we are not thrilled at all. The Steelers are going all in this year. For those that don't know, they traded for Jalen Ramsey. They gave up Mika, who is hated here too, and a 5th-round pick and to Miami, and Miami got a pick, and the Steelers got a tight end and Ramsey. So are the Steelers going all in to try to win the Super Bowl? That's the question. But
This is from
when
our
I-
good
when-
friends at Ohio Sports Talk.
Yeah, Ohio Sports Talk.
Mhm.
I don't. Their defense was suspect to the pass, so maybe that's why they went after Jalen Ramsey because they needed to fill that void. But here's the problem. Now that you got rid of Minka, now you have to deal with Thornhill. So I know Minka had a bad year last year, but if you think Minka had a bad year covering people, wait until you get Thornhill pulling the hammy trying to catch up to somebody. You're not going to be happy.
Yeah, it feels like a bit of a washed. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm not really appreciating Jalen Ramsey because I appreciate the talent, but I feel like bringing in Ramsey and then losing somebody that's sort of Minka Fitzpatrick, who's like another high level player at a similar position. I don't know. I feel like this just kind of like
Yeah, it was a while. I think a lot of
Crumbles it
Pittsburgh
up.
fans that I talked to say they did it for a salary camp next year for Ramsey, but it's weird because they gave him a $1.5 million raise when they joined the team. They say they like their tight end, and that's who they're really going to focus on long term. But we'll see how that happens.
I love it. Retweet it. Juan Thornhill's a piece of trash. When he did his stupid Pittsburgh thing, that was it for me. But Ramsey could possibly be a threat for us, but got a lot of things to look forward to this year.
They're old.
I think, yeah, exactly. I think we have lots to look forward to this year with this Browns offense. And I'm not going to worry about the Steelers defense. I've seen a lot of Steelers fans actually complaining about the things that have been happening. So
I want to go
It's-
I want to retweet so then we can come back to this at some point, save this part of the episode, and by the graces of the great football gods, these guys are going to suck. Their defense is going to be horrible, and I
don't know about that.
Oh, retweet it.
I would love that.
Retweet it.
I'm also a retweet because it happened. It's a fact. And I do think they make a point here where they say the Steelers are kind of all in. Jalen Ramsey's not a young kid anymore. They already have a very old defense. I think they're looking at, we got Rodgers. We don't know what is next for us at quarterback. But if we can get what Rodgers was able to show the last, 6 weeks of
Good
the
point,
season,
Kelly.
and we add that to the best defense we can throw out there, maybe we can get a legit playoff run. And I do think they're all in. So I think that's a retweet. I hope it doesn't work, but that's got to be their thinking, is bring in DK Metcalf, a more reasonable, reliable target than Pickens, bring in the quarterback who can get him the ball, draft a young running back, bring in don't be afraid to bring in older guys for this defense because they're already ready and go. So I'd say retweet, and I do hope we can circle back to that one in a few months and go, wrong move. You probably should have started retooling and rebuilding, which they never do, but it's catching up to them that they don't. And eventually I'm hoping that it crumbles them, but not this year, because I don't want them to have a top draft pick and end up grabbing a good quarterback.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think they're really reaching this season to have the big team that they want to have, with Aaron Rodgers being back there, because we don't know what his playability is going to be. I'm not expecting a lot out of him. I could be wrong. Could be eating my words right now as I talk. But if he's stinking it up, and then say that defense is even halfway good, they're going to be too tired to keep up. If you can't, and it all depends how this goes, man. Because their offense, I don't think, DK's a hell of a player, but I don't think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be their solution for this season.
And
Right.
while
Write
we
it
all
down.
know Mike Tomlin's a great coach, we would take him in a heartbeat, obviously, right? I'm sure we're all in agreement there. He's a great coach, but
Yeah, I got nothing
they have
against
not been
Tomlin.
able to develop a quarterback at all. Nothing whatsoever. I feel like they're in the same shoes as we are, but now we have 4 of them to decide from. So we're going to work on that, hopefully.
Yeah, I think I disagree. I think Pittsburgh's gonna be good. I think Rodgers is gonna be good. I think they're gonna be kind of dangerous in the division for sure. I do think it is. I agree with Chad. I think it is a wash. You trading one old older defensive person for another one. But I think a lot of Pittsburgh, from what I heard from Pittsburgh fans, that Minka's lost the ability to track the ball, which was his value. His interceptions have gone down. So there's no value there. But Ramsey's a better corner.
So they got rid of him and they added Thornhill.
Yeah, so that's why I told him, like, guys, you guys are not going to enjoy it. Watch Thornhill kill it over there. But
I just said, like, the only worry about Thornhill is he was good when he was playing on a good team.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
so maybe he'll be motivated and play well. But on to the next next segment. Actually, it's a new one called Media Playback. Oh, we're going to put that up. Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, my bad. Oops. This is what happens when you don't copy and paste right. Next one is Deontay Johnson. Did not want to play in the cold. It was 40 degrees. So I don't know if that's cold for you, but here
41.
It's
1 degree matters.
So he said he didn't want to get in because it was cold, and a good way to get yourself on a one-way ticket out of here. Yeah, that's what that person said. Yeah, so what do you guys think of this, of what our future slot receiver had to say?
So
let me
start with
go
this
ahead,
one. So you're going to start, Sam?
No, go ahead.
For me, it's a delete because I think that's taken out of context. So not only did JPA football put it on there, and I do believe it's out of context, they missed what he was actually talking about, but also the fact that somebody retweeted or quote tweeted that with following up on it and saying something is like set as a good way to get yourself a one-way ticket out of here. You know, the coaches need and GMs need to be fired if they don't boot him immediately. First of all,
extreme.
They knew about this whole situation when they brought him in. This is not new. Somehow it's like cycling right now, but it's not new. Second of all, I'm almost positive in an actual interview, he said, I didn't want to go in because I had sat the entire game and they wanted to put me in right at the end and I had no time to warm up and I didn't want to get hurt because I was cold, not like the temperature was cold, not like the temperature was freezing. He said he felt ice cold, and I think the context was like he hadn't warmed up and he was stiff and he didn't want to just go in a game that was over and run routes and hurt himself. I don't say I agree with that. You should go in when you're supposed to go in and you should keep yourself warmed up on the sidelines. I think he didn't because it was like the game's over. They never put me in. I'm not playing. But I think the ice cold was in context of like my hamstrings are cold. My body's cold. I haven't been moving. And I don't just want to go from 0 to playing. That's why I thought it was like every part of this tweet to me was like
wrong.
A misunderstanding. Yeah, it was just not. I think it was wrong. But I also think you can never say like this guy's in camp. Give him a chance to practice now that you got him here. Why does Browns fans always feel like it's better to just cut guys?
Especially like when you need guys.
There's no harm to having him camp. And this isn't affecting the rest of the team. He's not a cancer room in the lock. He's just cancer. It's like, so to me, it's delete because like none of this adds up to like pre-training camp talk. And I think it's miscommunication.
Sam?
I'm on the delete train because he's got something to prove, and I think he's going to do that here. I think he's going to right his ship. And when this came out, it just seemed like it was hate mail for him. So I'm like, you know what? Just put it back. I don't need to hear this. I don't care. Even if he did say it, guess what? I don't care. I want to see what he does with his with this opportunity he's got now with this organization. And I think when somebody's got that type of drive, because he already knows this is his last stop. He's got a lot to prove if he wants to be on that roster. And I think he's going to do that. And I hope the best for this guy. So I don't need to hear any other, well, we got to bring up some dirt now because, he's that guy. So bury that, delete for me.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Mike.
I agree completely with Sam. The guy's got a job to do, and you don't want to get injured coming out onto a field where you had no pregame warmups. The Browns will offer him that. He's going to have pregame warmups. He's going to be on the field. At the end of the day, no matter what this says, 41 degrees or not, it could be 75 degrees. The guy's going to play. Cleveland. Look forward to your new wide receiver.
Yes. So let's go a little deeper. There's a lot of stuff from this guy's interview that was taken out of context. Let's start with what he said about Kenny Pickett. That got picked up. People said, "Well, he said he's going to start. Kenny Pickett's going to start." But what he said was, yes, Kenny Pickett is going to start in the preseason because Joe Flacco doesn't need to throw in the preseason because he's a vet and he's seasoned. So a lot of people forgot to add that part after the Kenny Pickett part. Also, too, he did say all that what he just said there. He said, but I've been humbled and I've learned not to do that or not to act this way. So he's been humbled. Okay. So when you see these little articles that are just posting snippets of a podcast, I want to encourage everyone out there to go out and listen to the whole podcast so you can do exactly what Chad just said. I'm going to add context to this because you say cold as in freezing, but he's saying cold as in, have you ever went to the gym and just not stressed out and try to work out? Let me just push 220. let me push 220 real quick without first, working my way up. Eventually, he's right. You're going to hurt yourself. So I agree. I think it's a good delete, and I think it's a story that people are just, because it's dead season, they're just carrying it.
I'm getting so sick and tired of players doing something at a different organization and then ending up with the Browns, and then that's the time when everybody wants to criticize them. Like the guy was a Raven. I didn't hear crap about this. Why aren't the Ravens like doing this and why aren't they doing that? Like they suspended him for a day, but like the story like came and went, and now he's a Brown, and everybody wants to bring up that Deontay Johnson sat. How about we bring up the fact that the Ravens can't control their wide receivers and that nobody seems to want anything to do with playing wide receiver with that team other than Flower. There's just a bunch of like we've heard it over and over of like guys that come to the Brown, like all of the Watson stuff. That stuff was all from Texas. We took the whole brunt of that. I guess this is just another idea of like we signed when other guys give a guy a chance to like reboot their career, everybody loves it. When the Browns grab a guy, like we bring in Kenny Pickett, it's this giant media nightmare. The Vikings grab Sam Darnold, everybody's like, oh, savvy pick. Maybe he's got something. It
Maybe
just seems like
some in him.
Because it's the Browns, everybody wants to spin this giant negative. And it's like, especially pre-training camp, let these guys play and stop like bringing their past issues onto us as like a team, organization, fans, or a show. Like none of this happened under our roof. Like let the guy play here and then let's see how. Do you think the Steelers fans are like, we hate Juan Thornhill because he jogged for the Browns? Nope. They're like, he jogged for the Browns because the Browns are stupid. We love him here.
The Browns suck anyway.
Encouraging that guy. I guarantee they're propping up Juan Thornhill. But if it were a Cleveland thing, people would be like, well, I can't believe you brought him in. He jogged last year. And it will be this giant story from something that happened last year. It's such a freaking repetitive, like a broken record thing.
It's fine that the Steelers fans gloat for now, but they haven't developed a single quarterback since Ben Roethlisberger. So have at it.
I don't think it's
do
just
what you do.
I think like the media and like fans are going to be more in favor of guys they bring in there, and the media is going to like promote this stuff. Whereas like when it comes to the Browns, the media, especially national, loves to just crap on the Browns for their players, even if the stuff they're crapping on happens somewhere else. Like go crap on the Ravens because this guy sat out for a game.
Also, too, the media spun that, by the way, just like Chad said, saying, well, the Ravens were smart to sign him and let him go because they got a compensatory pick. What?
Now we have him.
Now we have him, and that's
we might let him go at some point after the season. But it cracks me up that's the thing, and there's so much out of context. There's so much just pooping on the Browns for everything they do.
It's the haters club, man. There's a real club out there. They're nothing about hate and bringing guys down before they get a chance to even prove themselves.
And then
it's been that way all the time.
And the fans hear that and they believe it. They hear something out of context. By the way, 41 degrees. I don't know if you guys noticed, this guy's played 4 successful seasons for Pittsburgh, where it also gets regularly 41
cold.
Degrees. He wasn't blown away by the temperature of Baltimore. It's warmer there than Pittsburgh. Like I don't know how people are like, oh, he can't handle the cold. Like he played in Pittsburgh for 4 years. It's an outdoor stadium. He played in the cold, idiots. Like this is not
What
and
receiver
nothing
said
to the
that
guy that
last
even
year?
posted this.
Right.
It's the post that he was retweeting. Like they're get a clue, guys. He wasn't just talking about the weather. He was talking about it's cold out. I'm not warmed up. Like it's just how do you let this stuff spin? Like, and why for the Browns is it such a constant? Like, chill out, guys. We have enough problems. We don't need to deal with your like extra spin on negativity. We have enough negativity in
Right.
real life.
Embrace the hate. That's all I can say. Embrace the hate,
Okay.
man. Just
Fair.
let them go. It ain't gonna do
Fair.
nothing, but it ain't gonna do nothing if you read too much into it. Let them go. Let the player shine. Now, if the player ends up goofing off somewhere, somehow down the line, now that's on him, and he made another error. Unfortunately, we don't know that yet. Let these guys play football, man.
Yeah.
You guys all know the famous quote: "Browns is the Browns."
Browns
It
is
didn't
the
work out too well
Browns.
Love
for
it.
him either. That didn't work out too well for him.
All right, on to our next favorite segment, new one's called Media Playback, where we're going to play back something the media said, and then we're going to respond to it. And this one's the TJ Houshmandzadeh. He talked about Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel is in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
I'll let him tell you
Talked
the
about
rest.
everybody a little.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yep.
People understand, man, like a practice. You go team, and that's going to be run plays and pass plays. You're going to do 12 of them. You're going to do 12 plays in team. The majority of the time, the ones are getting 7 or 8 of them 12. The twos going to get the rest, and they're going to throw the threes in there here and there. Where the fours come in at? Like, they don't get reps for the fours. You go 7 on 7. You're going to go 12 to 15 reps. The one's going to get, if it's 12 reps, 7 or 8. If it's 15, 9 or 10. Then the twos, maybe the threes, so forth and so on. So you got a 4-way battle for quarterback. Jerry Jeudy says it is pretty difficult. As a skill guy, and you know you're a part of the offense, you know you're going to be in the game. How difficult would that be on you if you were in that position? Your spot is solidified. How are you handling that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at. I know you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His response will come up in the next segment, but that is a pretty true breakdown. We've heard that, and I think in a quarterback competition, a lot of times you have to take those first reps, split them between multiple guys, and so he's right. Everyone is not going to get a ton of reps until they trim this competition down. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle it. And for anybody who's like, you guys brought up that big thing that they split the field and they kind of ran 2 practices. I think in
3rd and 14
OTAs and minicamp, you can do it.
Yeah.
In training camp, you've got more starters playing scout team and then switching offense and defense, second team playing second team. And so I don't think they're going to pull off that same thing in training camp.
No, yeah, I agree. You can't because you're not going to have as many players, right, in training camp. So what the availability of OTAs and mini camp is, you bringing in young talent, you bring in extra arm, you bring in extra legs, so you can run that extra field. And training camp this is where you're going to start implementing. Hey, this is our system. This is how we're going to operate. You can't do that. So that's why it's going to be interesting to see when they come back for the first week or two how they work that out. And the cream is going to rise to the top as far as how's Shador looking, how many reps is he getting, and that's when you can start to be like, all right, this dude. People are gonna get upset because Shador is like barely getting a throw in here or there. Even Dylan, because right now it's going to be Flacco and Pickett, right? So Dylan will get less, and then Shador will get whatever. If you go based upon if you go based upon priority, what I think, right, is Kenny, Flacco, Dylan, then Shador, because that's the way they picked them. That's just my opinion. Now, I've been right so far. So if you want to keep score, don't be surprised if Kenny is getting bulk of the throws just to see him getting comfortable in the offense. If they see he can't, if he hasn't caught on, they're going to make the switch to Flacco being the number one because they know Flacco knows how to do it.
I mean,
My
and
opinion.
that's just that. No, and that's elementary. I mean, Angel, that makes a lot of sense because we talked about when the OTAs were going on, people missed their football. I think they get a little too hyped up over the OTAs. I said this training camp, this is coming up. This is when you can start looking at things. You can start making a little bit better judgment on certain things. So that's it. The time's coming up here. What is first July 25th? I think is the first training camp day. So we start seeing exactly how these guys are going to be used, implemented, what kind of reps they're getting, and then you can say, you know what, dude ain't getting that much reps, man. I don't think they're even going to even play him in a preseason game. It's going to be this guy, this guy, and this guy. Right? You're going to watch the same thing going on. You're going to watch the same thing going on with our wide receivers. You know, we talked to like our top 5 guys. We kind of got in the back of our mind. This training camp will definitely be the deciding factor.
And we have a lot of joint
and we still got 3 preseason games to play too.
Yeah, there is a lot of joint practices too. And we know they don't like to play the guys that play the number 1 role in the joint practices much in the preseason game. I think by the time they start joint practices, they've probably got to have this narrowed down to like 2 guys competing for that starting position, which gives them only about, I forget, a week of training camp before they have to shift. But Mike, if you have anything to add, if not, we can go to that second part of the video.
Let's go to the second part.
Like he's thinking what you're thinking, and he's placing the ball where you are, and you're getting your head around at a certain timing. Like to do that with one person and get that down is enough work. To think you're going to get that down with 4 different dudes over the course of a camp sounds insane and just sounds like stressful. Like, I don't even know. You might end up in a game with somebody like, man, I ain't even caught a ball from this dude. Like, that's why I think DeAndre Hopkins, what he was doing in Houston when he had like Tom Savage and Sage Rosenfels, no offense to them dudes, but it's like, it's the rotation of so many different guys and he's still going out there doing what he's doing. That's insane to me. But I don't know, maybe if you're a Browns coach, you got to look at certain days where it's like, all right, Shador gonna get the bulk of ones today. The next day, Flacco might get more of the ones, and Gabriel might get more of the ones the next day. They got to have some sort of structure to where at least for one day, Judy and those guys can get acquainted with
but
one.
But if it's a 4-man competition, like how can you do it? Like you can't Kenny Pickett, Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, Shador. It's virtual. It's not enough reps. There's not enough reps in a practice.
It's crazy.
Like if they were, to me, I wish 2 guys would get the majority of the reps one day. Then 2 guys get the majority of the, I don't know how this is a fair comment because I was told from somebody that's in the building that ain't a player. It's really coming down to Kenny Pickett or Dylan Gabriel. That's what I was told. But now when you get the reports that Shadur's completed 7 out of 9 passes, like, is it against the starters? Or is it 3s and 4s, the guys that's going to get released? So it seems impressive when you see the graphic. But is it really impressive if it's not against the starters or guys that's going to be on the team? You don't know how they dividing up the reps, and it's virtually impossible with the amount of snaps. Because
oh my gosh,
what I would like to start this off with, well, I'm going to start this off. Whether or not be Shador, whether it be Kenny Pickett, whether it be Dylan Gabriel, whether it be Joe Flacco, no matter what you're doing, if you're throwing 3s and 4s, as say Shador Sanders, and you're doing well, you're going to be able to throw to those 1s and 2s better, in my opinion. Am I correct or am I wrong? I mean, I agree with his opinion that you need to throw with these 1s and 2s because that way you know their speed, you know their athleticism on the field. But at the end of the day, how do you sum that up? when they're only getting so many reps. And we're going to see more in obviously camp. Definitely going to see a lot more in preseason, but preseason's kind of a bunk scenario where Chad doesn't even like watching preseason because
He'll be
you're
watching
playing
this
your
year, though.
second, third, and fourth stringers. Yeah, definitely Chad's going to watch this year. And he's
I think
sad. Look
every
at him.
Browns. I think the
Chad is crying.
preseason. I think for the Browns fans, the preseason is going to be a real game because of the competition. Quarterback competition is so intriguing. Like everyone has their guy, and they want to see their guy play. So it's going to be fun preseason. But
Well,
yeah,
I agree.
Point,
I
though,
think
I think it's a good point. I would push back only on the idea of like I think they are referring to like you need your guy is going to eventually be your starter to be throwing to your top receivers, the ones they'll throw to in the game.
Yeah.
But also, I think he's saying like if you're throwing to the 3s and the 4s, you're probably playing against the defense of the 3s and the 4s, and those aren't as quality of reps. They don't tell you what it tells you when the person throwing to the 1s completes a pass to Jamari Thrash being covered by Greg Newsome the same way you see it. Like this guy got it to the guy on the team who's like receiver 10 and like cornerback 11 was covering him. Like that's just not the same quality of rep. But I do hear your point. Like that's how you got to start. If those are the reps you're getting, you got to maximize them in order to get better chances. But they do. I mean, the way they went over that, like, I mean, that's Darren Waller and TJ Houshmandzadeh. One of them's currently one of the NFL's best tight ends of this era, and TJ Houshmandzadeh had an incredible career.
Number 2 guy for sure.
Yeah, in Cincinnati, and he's like the T. Higgins of like that era of him and Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco in Cincinnati. They know what they're talking about. They know what's going on in these practices. They both seem baffled with the idea of running 4. Which makes me think, and they do say like one of my favorite parts of it was, we see this graphic of Shador completed 7 out of 9. What does that mean? We don't know. You know who does know? Coach Stefanski,
Coaches, yep.
Tommy Reed. Yeah, the guys in the building know whether those reps were impressive or whether they were just stat reps because the guy like.
And not only that, they know if his footwork is correct. They know if he was throwing it to where they needed him to throw it at. So it's not just 7
would he have gotten sacked in that play in real life?
Yeah, in real life. So it's like they see this graphic, and that's why it was crazy to me that people on X were like going crazy over this because it's like, well, we're just seeing the surface level. Like they're going like, hey, Shador, you took one too many steps back, and you could have avoided the sack if you would have stepped up in the pocket as opposed to going left or right. I mean, there's so much in depth, not just with Shador, any of the quarterbacks, but yeah, I agree. I think that is I think TJ hit it right on the head. He said, hey, what does the graphic mean? He's 7 for 7. That's impressive. But if it's against the 3 and 4s, then I need to know more. Like what did it look like? How did it look like? And what he means is like the footwork. Is he throwing it to where he needs to throw it to? It could he have been sacked, like Chad said. That's stuff that we don't know. We won't know.
Because we watch these and like a defensive end gets around the corner, gets to the guy, but then they let the play just keep going because they're like, well, we still want to see the cornerbacks and receivers. Yeah. So the quarterback like steps around and then still throws when in real life, like that would have been a dead play. Or
was that quarterback Kenny Pickett or Dylan where Miles came in and the play was just dead?
Dylan, and he just
was it Dylan? He just
grasped it, just turfed it. Yeah,
yeah. Like, can you imagine Miles coming in at you? That would be scary.
He did a little gopher hunting, like straight to the ground. But yeah, so and they let those like Miles gets around. They don't go after the quarterback because they don't really contact the quarterback. So he just kind of like runs wide. But everyone on the team knows like, okay, well, that wouldn't have happened. But I guess I think it's just like the things that stood out to me were like the way they broke down how many reps actually happen in one game as far as like full team reps, 1s and 2s, and then both of their shock of like how will they pull this off. Obviously, the third thing worth noting is TJ Houshmandzadeh saying, I know somebody in the building who's not a player who is telling me right now it's really about Dylan Gabriel versus Kenny Pickett to lead this quarterback race. Where does that hit you guys?
To me, it makes sense because I go back to what I said months ago. I don't think Flacco was part of the plan originally. I think Flacco just so happened to happen. Now, I think Flacco's there is like, well, if Pickett doesn't work out, we have Flacco and to get Dylan ready. I really believe that. I'm not just saying that because I've been saying it for 6 months. I'm going to die on this hill. I really mean the order in which the quarterbacks were being selected is their priority. I think Kenny is their pick, QB1, and Dylan is who they really like. Now they, by chance, so happen to fall on Sanders, and it might work out for them. He might overcome Dylan and be quarterback 1 in 2 to 3 years.
And we've mentioned this on the show a bunch of times, and like I think a lot of us would be okay if Joe Flacco started. I think multiple of us and probably a bulk of Browns fans would love Joe Flacco to be the starter. I just keep in my head on what Angel just said of the idea of I'm not sure Joe Flacco would be here but I think they had right before the draft, they're like, all we really got is Kenny Pickett. We're looking at this draft. We don't see somebody who's a very high likelihood of being the week 1 2025 starter or like a solid winning NFL starter for us this year. So we're probably just coming out with one of these like later round guys. So we are going to need Joe Flacco because if that guy isn't ready, it's just Joe and Kenny. And then when they ended up Sanders falling into their lap late, it did change probably the potential of them, but there's no reason to make a move yet because like someone could get hurt, someone could really like elevate themselves. But I do think the Pickett was plan A, Gabriel was there to be with him, and then Flacco was that like we know we can't go wrong with him, so he fills out the room, and now Sanders. So just to reiterate that because we've talked about that a lot. This wasn't a planned room. Sanders kind of muffed up the plan by still available. I think they probably thought somebody will take him in the second round. It won't be us. We're on Dylan. We're probably going to take him 94th or 124th, depending on how the draft falls and what we're kind of thinking about where the quarterbacks go. And then Dart went off early in round 1. Tyler Shuck went off early. Jalen Miller went, and they were probably like, okay, if we're going to take this kid, we got to take him at 94 because it's looking like quarterbacks are going maybe earlier than some had thought. And so that pivoted the thing. But I find it interesting that he sounded pretty genuine, and it is possible with all the coaches that there was somebody that he's connected with somewhere. But it sort of makes sense what Angel's saying was plan A was Kenny. The guy they kind of had their eye on all along was Dylan. Now they're going to try to let those two battle out, knowing that in the background, if neither of them take the reins, Joe Flacco could do it, which is the other reason I think when it comes to reps, I'm ready for Joe Flacco to get a ton of reps before the season starts. I'm not ready for him to get many at all until they're getting ready for the third preseason game. Just because he's the most experienced, you know what he can do. He knows this offense. Like he has the least questions, even though I don't think he's great at this point in his career. We know what he is. He's the only person in that room that we really know what we're going to get out of him.
Let's be realistic here. James Frank says Flacco mania is real, Chad. Don't rain on my parade. But we're going to be realistic. We obviously all know that it's going to be Joe Flacco that's mainly going to be starting. He's a vet. He's the older guy in the field. He's won a Super Bowl. We all know this. That's great things. And we all had the Flacco fever last year or 2 years ago. I'm sorry. We did. It was there. But I think between week 4 and 6, you were going to see one of the rookies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just
I'm not
me
as convinced
being
Joe
real.
Flacco starts, but I do see your logic, and I think most fans do think like that, do agree with you, and that's who they would want. I know, like Sam, right? You really like him, right? The one other thing that gives me pause outside of this video is I've heard on multiple occasions Nathan Zagura say, "Don't be so sure Joe Flacco is going to be your early starter." And I always feel like when I hear that stuff from him, the way he like is a little bit involved with the organization, it always makes me think he's giving an early warning, like, don't get your eyes set on this thing because I'm kind of hearing, I'm not allowed to say, but I'm kind of hearing there could be some other stuff going on.
Chad, read that comment. Or you read it out loud.
He does. So it says, I agree with Chad. Flacco also has that 10-year tenure with the team and camaraderie and knows what it takes to get those guys. Yeah, I'm blocked at the bottom because I hit the preset like an idiot. But she's right. But that's why I think he's the lock. So that's the reason you don't have to push reps for him to see if he can earn the starting job, because it's more about, can another guy earn the starting job? And if they can't, well, then we'll just throw in Joe Flacco. That's what it feels like to me. Like, we know it's like we have a mediocre quarterback in Joe Flacco who has not had a lot of success in the last like back half of his career, but he did have a little success here, and like they just know that. So to me, it doesn't shock me at all when a little surprised that somebody said it, but like that it might be Pickett and Gabriel fighting for that one spot, because there's a chance neither of them win. I don't think it's like who's better, Gabriel or Pickett. I think it's more, does one of these guys, if we give them a ton of reps, make it so we don't have to start Joe Flacco? Great. And if neither of them do, then it's going to be Joe, and we'll see how Shador develops along the way and if he surprises us.
Yes.
I agree. Yeah.
We're
So
gonna
yeah,
have to move the rest of the show to next week because it is.
we're
I had a hell of a
fine,
day,
yeah.
guys.
hour and a half.
But yeah,
No, we're good. You guys talk. You guys talk too much.
That is true.
Just joking. That's a joke.
That is for
It's
sure
a good.
true.
No, it's a good. No. I'm sitting there like I'm sucking it all in, and I'm like, I didn't really kind of think about that one, but I ain't gonna say nothing in front of the guys right now. I'm gonna sit back,
Yeah.
maybe
No, that's
rewatch the
the
show and
point. I
think
mean,
about it some more.
By the way, listeners, if you're not hearing this and going like, you don't even have to agree, but like it should give you something to think about. Like, what is actually happening in the building? The only group that knows are the other players and coaches. And by the way, the players know. They watch these reps. We've talked about this before. We've all been in like some team situations, whether it's at work or in a sport, whether it's high school or whether it's grown up life. You know the people around you who can do the job and are doing it better than others. Like, you just know. And so the players know who's succeeding, which is where some frustration has come in the past, because they've seen Brian Hoyer. They know he's the best player in the room, and the Browns make a dumb decision of putting in Johnny, and the players get pissed because they know the Browns threw in DTR when they know that's not the best quarterback in our room. Now we know they're it bothers them because they know. But who knows the most right now is probably the coaches, because they've been there in rookie camps, mini camps, workouts, OTAs, and they'll be through training camp. The problem is we're stuck just trusting that they're gonna make the right call, and that's a bummer if you're from Cleveland, because we're not used to that.
I said it's gonna be between the two veterans, and now if they're not seeing what they want out of Kenny in training camp, I think they go with Flacco. If Kenny's killing it in training camp, you're going to go with Kenny. I think that's just the way it's going to go. They already know what Flacco can do. They're expecting what they want to see out of Kenny Pickett. If Kenny doesn't show them and he's not picking up what they're laying down, and he's not, and it's not working out, it's not coming out clean, then they're going to go, we got to start Joe now.
You better watch your words. Angel might fight you after the show.
No,
I'm with him though, and I think
I always did say.
Hey guys, I gotta
say it's going to be up.
I gotta go.
So.
All right, I got it. You
All
guys
right.
can stay. All right, I'll see you guys in a minute.
we're
Bye.
closing it out.
Right.
I do agree though with Sam. The one thing I would say, as we shut it down here, is as fans, I'd say we all also kind of know what Joe Flacco is. He had a great run with us over the last 5 years of his career. He just has not been able to beat winning teams, but he has been able to beat losing teams, which makes him kind of a middle of the road option. And he's 40. It is probably the worst case scenario for this team if he does end up being the best option, which wouldn't be a shock, and it would be okay. But everyone should be hoping that Kenny can take a step forward, or that one of these rookies is much better than their draft position, because that would be good for us if we have somebody better than Joe Flacco behind center. But it is nice to know if that doesn't happen, Joe's just there and he's on a good contract and can come in and do some work. So
I agree. I agree.
Mike's
Like,
just,
we
Mike's
just want
just
the, we
giving up
want the best.
and flipping us around. Mike's giving up on the conversation. He's just playing with
No,
flipping
no,
us around.
I did not even mean to do that, but that just happened. So, but yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for joining us tonight. We're going to end the show because I got to eat some dinner. I had a rough day. Sam's a roofer with Crohn's. He had a rough day. And Chad,
I had to work hungover all day, so I had a rough day.
that's like a
Oh,
normal
God.
thing for me and Sam, but
My own
yes,
fault. I deserve it.
everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. We will see you guys maybe Saturday. There's a possibility there will be a Saturday show, but if not, until then, gentlemen, go Browns. That was
Later.
horrible. I'll see you
Better at
guys
it.
next week.
Forget-